How's it going, everybody? It's Young here, and welcome to Day 8 of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. We've officially got 1 week and 1 day to go before the game launches. Before you proceed, I highly recommend you check out Day 9, in which I finished up news for 2015. In this video, I'll be diving into 2016 news leading all the way up to the unveiling of the Niflheim base infiltration gameplay video. There's a lot to talk about, so without further ado, let's dive right into it. The year kicked off with little bits of news here and there. On January 4th, 2016, website Examiner released an interview that they did with game director Hajime Tabata. He talked about how you will see Noctis grow in this game, going from young prince to becoming the king of the country, and how he will undergo a deep and personal journey through which we'll see him grow and develop as a person. Tabata also mentioned that it's important to him that Final Fantasy XV's story progresses through gameplay in an unforced way, mentioning Last of Us as an example. Something else that he revealed is that Final Fantasy XV won't be 100% open world, but rather a linear game with open world elements and expansive areas, which I think a lot of people were glad about, since this means they'll be able to balance player freedom with narrative focus. Then, a few days later, on January 11th, 2016, the Final Fantasy XV development team took to the game's official forums to answer some user questions. Here's a summary by website Gematsu. One of the questions asked how much of big cities like Alticia and Insomnia players will be able to explore. They responded by sharing some new details about Alticia, stating, "Alticia has many and varied locations, such as multiple cafes, shipborne marketplaces, and parks, etc. The city is of a considerable scale, to the extent that even the developers sometimes get lost there. The player is free to take a leisurely walk around the complex maze of streets or ride the gondola to see the sights, and there is also added enjoyment to be had looking for restaurants to visit. You're bound to encounter some unique characters when exploring the city streets, so we have created lots of different things to enjoy in Alticia and hope everyone is looking forward to visiting." The next question asked if large buildings will have multiple warp points for Noctis to scale. The answer was yes, and that warping serves a pivotal role in Final Fantasy XV's battle system. They also mentioned that there will be aerial battles with flying foes, as well as gigantic bosses, where warping will come into play. The last question was regarding the differences between the game's various difficulty modes. They responded by hinting at some kind of system where you can switch between battle modes, the fast-paced one that we know now and one that would allow players to fight at a slower, more relaxed pace. I believe he was hinting at the wait mode, which would be introduced in E3 2016, but that's a topic for another time. Moving along, let's skip ahead 10 days later, which brings us to January 21st, 2016. On this date, a Final Fantasy XV scan from the Weekly Jump magazine made its way online, and it revealed a number of things through text and screenshots. The article mentioned how the fire magic will engulf an entire area into flames, which may hurt allies if nearby, how Noctis can mount certain monsters to reduce their physical strength, how certain monsters can be attacked from the sky by jumping, and how there will be segments in which Noctis can sneak into enemy territory undiscovered. This leads us to the final news for the month of January. On January 31st, 2015, Square Enix hosted yet another active time report livestream, where they not only talked about the Niflheim Empire's hierarchy and leadership structure, but also showcased 2 new videos of the highly anticipated title. Website Gematsu did a great job of summarizing the event, so let's check out their article, which reads as follows. Magic. There are 2 different disciplines of magic, elemental magic and ring magic. Ring magic only becomes usable after a certain point in the story and can only be used by the bearer of the Royal Ring of Lucis, which is passed down the royal line. Elemental magic consists of fire, blizzard, and thunder. These magic attacks have different effects based on the weather and environment. For example, certain objects, including grassy fields, are flammable when casting fire. Fire is a wide area attack from the start, but with greater power alongside the risk of damaging your allies. If you cast thunder while it's raining, it will deal more damage and its effects will spread further. Or if there is water in a blizzard attack's initial area of effect, then it will freeze for a bit. If monsters come within the area of effect, Their biorhythms will rapidly slow down, making their movement sluggish or possibly freezing them to death. Elemental magic is described as an item of sorts, but not the kind you can purchase. Elements are present in various locations around the world, and are a type of energy you can gather. The energy you gather can be used to create magic and stored as an important part of your inventory. You can then equip that item in place of a weapon to use in battle. In the footage that follows below, we see Noctis use fire like one would toss a grenade. Second progress report. Square Enix released the second and final progress report video showing the progress of development of certain sections in the game. The build in today's progress report is from August and September last year. Here's what the footage looks like for those who may have missed it. Next up is Niflheim Empire. The Niflheim Empire is the opposing force in Final Fantasy XV. It has a staggering number of military troops at its disposal. Square Enix detailed a bit about the Empire's condition just after the game begins. The Niflheim Empire has already conquered and occupied a vast majority of the world at the start of the story. The Kingdom of Lucis, however, still maintains its independence and is the last bastion against Niflheim, but is being pressured. Niflheim and Lucis rely on different things as a source of military might. Lucis's major power comes from magic. They have the crystal and can use its power to erect magic barriers and such to prevent enemy invasions. Niflheim, on the other hand, is a mechanized civilization. Their regular infantry units are non-human Magitek troopers available in overwhelming numbers. A lot of things will happen once the story is in motion, but the above is the situation at the very start of the game. Let's meet the leadership. Eodolus Aldercapt is Niflheim's emperor and a ruthless supremacist, whose politics are dedicated to territorial expansion. Although at the start of the game he's not actually leading the empire personally, he's semi-retired from frontline politics. Chancellor Arden Izunia is the one really holding the reins of power and controlling the Niflheim Empire. He's a slightly humorous character who's incredibly shrewd and plays a very important role in the story. Versdale, pictured in the diagram above, is the character who developed the technology for the Magitek Infantry. Arden expanded the manufacturing of the Magitek Infantry that Versdale invented, and is using them to build up the Empire's might. General Glauca is the head of the Imperial military. Just below him on the chart, there are various Magitek infantry units and the ranked officers who command them. All of Niflheim soldiers are Magitek infantry troopers, but the officers above them are human. So out in the field, it's all robots, but human beings are the ones controlling them. All the soldiers serving under the captains are artificial Magitek troopers. There are 2 different models in the Magitek Infantry. The current combat prototype showed up in the Episode Sky demo. They are built for war, being optimized for combat, and are dropped into battle by assault landing craft. The former all-purpose model is a soldier deployed for all kinds of tasks outside of battle. In the Dawn trailer, they showed up as manning a traffic checkpoint. Arania Highwind is the fan-favorite Dragoon we have been seeing since the Final Fantasy Versus 13 days. She is captain of the Niflheim's 3rd Army Corps 86th Airborne Unit. She's skilled in aerial combat, so people in the army refer to her as the Dragoon. It wasn't just a fan saying, after all. Battle footage. The latest footage shows the team infiltrating an Imperial base at Niflheim. Before we proceed, let's go ahead and check out the footage.
待て静かやり過ごせたか油断するなよ了解
The article proceeded with, infiltrating bases is something you can do and a way you can enjoy the game that's different from the main story. The camera has been improved, greatly refined from what we saw in the Episode Sky demo. It's being automated as much as possible so that players won't need to control it manually. The swirling weapon selection is back, that being the conjuring of weapons before choosing one. This feature had always been planned to be incorporated into the game. The user interface is drastically different than before. The team is in the middle of final UI adjustments, so it may change some more. The 4 weapons are now incorporated to the directional buttons, so players can instantaneously switch between weapons. This addition was based on user feedback from the Episode Duskaya demo. The 4th combo has also been revealed. The previously 3 combos were auto combos, pairing combos, and combos triggered by allies. More commands become available as your allies level up. When a player uses such a command, the camera switches to the ally performing the command, then back to Noctis. It's a command to an ally that players can use at their own discretion. The Active Time Report broadcast finally concluded by announcing a March event called Uncovered Final Fantasy XV, which was set to take place on March 30th, 2016 at 7 p.m. Pacific and set to be hosted by Kinda Funny Games' Greg Miller and Tim Geddes. All Square Enix said about what we can expect is that they would announce the release date, price, and tons of other information about the game. As we know today, Uncovered was the event where they finally blew the lid wide open on the 10-years-old title. But that's a topic for the next video, so with that, I would like to conclude today's episode of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about the Niflheim battle footage when you saw it for the first time, and to be further updated on all things Final Fantasy, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!